What is up, everybody? Project Itachi here with my co-host Warners. Welcome back for another week of the GZ Chop Shop, episode 99. This is one step from a milestone, buddy. We are almost at 100 episodes of this podcast, which is, I got to take a moment and just be like, thank you guys so much for your continued support, tuning in each week, listening and pretty much giving us feedback and just helping us keep this show going. We're almost 100 episodes in. We got something special planned for that 100 episode. So look forward to that. I'm excited and it's been great. It's been a wonderful, couple years. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't sure if we were going to hit 100 episodes, but here we are. And not only that, we have another podcast underway, The After Dark, which is now publicly available. You guys can find that on Spotify and our website, osn-media.com. So make sure to go check out that podcast as well, with another podcast in the works that is coming down the pipeline. So a lot of things have been happening, a lot of things in motion. So thank you guys so much. Really excited. Can't wait to do that 100 episode coming very, very soon to you guys. But as always, you know, we have an amazing episode lined up for you guys today. And it's a little bit more of a discussion piece, just talking about some things that happened over pretty much the past week, 2 weeks, because we didn't have an episode last week, but some things happened. And of course, every time we take a break, interesting things happen. And one of the things I want to kick off with before we get to a real big one is the end of nostalgia for something that you grew up with, something I grew up with, something I'm sure most of our listeners grew up with. The iPod is officially being discontinued.
It's about time. It's about time. It hurts to see it go, but it's 2022. What are we doing here? Like, I don't know. Just move it along already. They really dragged it out. It was like someone in a relationship with someone they didn't like. And they just, instead of breaking up with them, they just dragged them through hell for like 10 more years than necessary. That's what we did to the iPod in general. We just dragged
now,
it.
see, I feel for like the music enthusiasts, because like Byrne, he's a music enthusiast. So he had like music hardware specifically for that. And I could understand the appeal of an iPod because it was for people who may not have wanted an iPhone, but they wanted the iPhone experience without having to pay a phone bill to listen to their music. Now that option, at least with Apple, will be gone. Like, you went to the store, you bought an iPod, that was it. You got your iPod, you got your music, you got all those apps.
So it's the iPod Touch as well, right? Yeah,
all of them gone.
Yeah,
they're all going to be gone.
It kind of figures, honestly, because I mean, even now, my kids, right? They have a phone each, but it doesn't. It's my old phone, and I have my accounts on there for like things that I let them listen to and have access to, but there's no phone number attached to it, so there's no reason to go. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Was this kind of passing down of our old phones to our children and our friends in exchange of having to go out and buy one yourself. I'm sure that played, a huge factor there. But yeah, this was a long time coming. It sucks to see it go, but it kind of feel like a relic. I remember when they first came out and we thought they were the coolest thing ever.
They've been going around. They've been around for 20 years. That in technology, that's a lifetime.
This is so wild. 20 years. The iPod's been around for 20 years. Where was I? I was about 14?
I was 13.
14 years old. When did the Zune come out? Was it a couple years after that? It was like a couple years
after the iPod. Like, not that long after.
They did not get dragged through the dirt. They got immediately denied. Yeah. They were rejected immediately. Because, the iPod already had the market. I mean, they didn't innovate portable music players, but they helped raise them to the level of popularity that they wound up being at. So I don't know what Zune was thinking, because when the iPod came out, especially with the iPod Touch, right? It was so slick. I do remember how much thicker they were, but they were slick, user friendly. They were bulkier, than what we have now, but they still weren't too bad. but the Zunes were bricks, bro. Like the Zune was just in no way. It was the typical Microsoft move. Copy and paste what someone else did, but spend less money on design, and it failed.
They went back to like what iPods first looked like, and were like people were like, they were still adjusting. Like we introduced touchscreens, so a lot of people were kind of iffy on touchscreens because it's like, no, I like buttons. So Microsoft took that literally and was like, we'll give you a big button. This is what everyone wants. But Microsoft sold people short on the fact that they might not like it at first, but will adapt because your friends will see it and they'll use it. And then everyone's going to get curious. Oh, so-and-so's using it. So-and-so got it. Now I kind of am curious. Okay, maybe it's not that bad. And then we all adapt to the next best thing.
You know what I want to see go next? This thing that I'm getting I'm so angry and irritated about even seeing in public is headphones that still have wires. What are y'all doing, people? What are you doing using headphone jacks and wired headphones? Like, how are you doing that? How are you running and not remember the jerking? The jerking
of the headphones.
You know how much freedom you have using just wireless headphones. You just whiplash, like whatever you want to do. You could do yoga in the middle of your run. Didn't matter what stupid thing you did. You could sprint full speed. You could try and wave at your homie or some random stranger and be weird. Whatever you wanted to do, you could do it with freedom. But with those damn wires, headphones, you are restricted. They pop off and ruin your mood. Like, oh damn, my groove is ruined. Just plug it back in, stop running for a second.
When you have to adjust it like an antenna because one of them is starting to die.
Yeah, like people, I'll break it to you straight. Am I wealthy? Am I rich? You know, am I well off? I'm doing okay. Am I broke and shit every week after week? No, but I have enough to go buy myself a $30, $40 pair of wireless headphones. Y'all can do the same. And you know how I know y'all can do the same? Because I grew up before wireless headphones when people would drop the same amount of money that I would drop now on wireless headphones. Back then, people would drop that amount of money on those giant ass fucking head like I'm wearing now, but like for listening to your CD player.
Like the equivalent of both. I was going to say, you know who we know that still does that to this day? Burn is
this motherfucker
Burn will get
he's a little microcosm of a Dr. Dre's studio when it comes to music.
He loves his like Bose level headphones. I never saw that man. You give him AirPods or something small, he's going to look at you like you're crazy. He's like, no, I need something like this. Like for me, this is like when I'm in my podcast studio, this is what I wear. When I'm gaming, this is what I wear. But when I'm out there, I'm like you. I got my AirPods because it's
that's okay. So that's another thing that bothers me as a runner and as someone who likes shit to even stay in my ear. How in the hell do people use these AirPods and they stay in their ear no matter what you do? I call bullshit. Something's wrong in this situation because I've tried AirPods out. I put them in and they like to just fucking sit there. And if I tilt my head the wrong way, they're like, fuck that. They just leave. They just fucking leave. And I'm like, why did I spend money on this shit? So I go back to the one. I like the ones that hook around my ear and they stay. Yeah. But like those little pods, like I'm like, it's like, fuck, dude. How do they stay on your ear? It's a magical, just, I don't understand it.
It does not compute in my brain. This
does not compute to me.
It's something in their design. I'm not even going to try to break it down. We need somebody from Apple to come and give us the breakdown and the science behind it and the laws of gravity. It's just
with my luck would be I'm running and I have my AirPods in and I'm running and like some wind would just be like whoosh just out of nowhere and it would take my little AirPod and it would just go into the
ether
and it would be gone. Then my run would be ruined. I need the hooks, man. The hooks to keep them in place. Got to have them, man.
But yeah,
I would be so paranoid if I had to run or do stuff with AirPods. I'd duct tape my ear. Like there would just be duct tape on my ear to keep them in place.
Oh god,
because I don't trust it. It just.
Oh my gosh, but yeah. iPods. gone. So that's going to be great. But you can still get them. They're saying they're going to be having them pretty much until supplies last.
Go to your nearest antique store and you can find the iPod section next to the old lady lamps.
Oh my gosh, bro. Just go to like your retro gaming store in like a good year or two.
There's antique stores like we think of them, and then there's tech antique stores. Is that such a thing? Or are there tech antique stores?
I think they're just those retro shops.
Like you see in what's that movie with Will Smith? That fucking robot, iRobot. You know, he had like a room and everything was like antique tech. Yeah. Remember, but a store, like you could go into a store and buy antique tech. That'd be kind of cool.
In probably like 5 years, there will literally be tech antiques.
What was that place that fell apart outside? Antique Techs. Yeah, it's ours.
Tech Antiques and Antique Techs. We said it here first.
That's right. Best Buy survived, but what was the other? There was another tech company like them, like digital audio tech company. I would go there to buy race cars and shit.
I mean, there was Fry's Electronics. There is
not Fry's Electronics. There's another one that didn't really make it. It was
Radio
way
Shack.
Before them. Radio Shack, that's the one, man. See, man, talk about they really went from existence to myth.
I think
to
there's
legend.
like 3 in the country now. Dude, there was one in Cali when I was stationed over in Cali. There was one.
They could have they can make a comeback right now and just call themselves like some kind of antique tech shop and just keep selling the same shit they always did.
And they probably would suddenly rise to
explode.
They would explode just based off because we would be the generation to go in there and everyone before us and we would keep them alive. Like, bro, I remember this.
Yeah, take a moment to like try to remember what it would be like to like live an entire day like we did as kids, having to use a CD player, CD changer, mess with the internet, and the phone router, stuff like that, and how annoyed and inconvenienced you'd feel all day.
But the thing is,
because it wasn't instant,
we think of it as inconvenience now. Because we remember how it was. But back then, that was the pinnacle of technology. It's like, bro, I got a 5-disc changer, 12 songs on each disc, bro. I got a whole library. And you were the DJ. You were set. Like, everyone was like, yo, he's got a 5-disc changer with 12 songs per disc.
I tell you about that PS5 that you can buy on Amazon right now? That's a 5-disc changer. People, this is real. Go on Amazon right now and you can find a PlayStation 5 and it is a 5-disc changer.
That's paying homage to us.
It is wild. Who are they marketing to with this?
Specifically.
It's expensive, by the way. It's like $1,400.
Yeah, specifically to us, just for that nostalgia. Well, and also you would say like, who needs that in this day and age? But you got to think there's a lot of people who still buy mostly physical copies. Once again, our buddy Bird, he mostly will buy a physical copy because he's a collector. That
he's a survivor. That's what he's doing. He's surviving the onslaught of tech death.
Yeah. So a 5-disc changer, as unnecessary as it seems, for a lazy gaming day, you put your 5 favorite games in there and then you're just like cycle through. For them, that's the equivalent of digital download. With
what's lazier, having digital games that are already downloaded for access, or using a 5-disc changer? What's lazier?
Honestly, digital. 100% digital.
What's
At least you got to get up. Look, you still have to exert more effort for your 5-disc changer than digital.
Bro, I can't imagine using that in today's age, because any games I put in that 5-disc changer, if I could fill all 5 slots up, would probably never leave. Because it'd probably be all my actual physical copies would be in the PlayStation. Most physical copies of any games I have that I have stored away are for older consoles, which I have a lot of. Unfortunately, a lot of them are opened and used. I like most people's. I did not think when I was 10 to
save,
buy an extra copy and keep it locked up.
The things you wish you knew then, because you think that stuff is going to be around forever. Like, I wish I never traded in my special edition black GameCube. And now I'm looking back and I'm like,
we were. it's that saying, man. We were out there playing checkers, but some people were playing chess and they didn't even know it. And they won. They won long term.
That's why, like, now, and it sucks because the stuff I sit on now is not going to have anywhere near the value of the stuff I had before. Because with the exception of like my Nintendo 64, which I still have, which still looks brand new and runs, that is the only time I played chess, because that was a gift. And I was like, I'm never giving this up because someone gifted this to me. And I still have it to this day. But the GameCube and everything else, I was like, oh man, this stuff will be around forever. And then it wasn't. And then one day I wake up, in my 30s and I'm like, damn, I really miss my GameCube. The graphics are probably dog shit now, but I don't care. I really miss my GameCube. Man.
That GameCube was on point.
And I look at my controller. I still have my OG controllers, just not the system. And I'm like, I am so backwards with this. So I held on to the Wii. I think I started learning like after the Wii came out because of how fast the Wii sold out and how eager everyone was to get it.
The Wii was so bizarre because the Wii makes no sense. If you look at the GameCube and what it and how great it was, and then you look at the Nintendo Switch and how revolutionary it is in gaming. Like it said, we're going to take everything that you know about Game Boys and Nintendo, and we're going to make one super console. Yeah, that's wow. And then you look at the Wii in the middle. The Wii was confused as fuck, man.
It went through
Wii was like
13 evolutions, different project names.
It didn't know what it was doing, but it was fun. It was a fun console, but it was like, had it not been the fact that it was Nintendo and it had Nintendo games, it would not have made it.
I put it this way. The Wii was the Dreamcast for Nintendo. It was ahead of its time.
That is so true. That is such a great analogy.
It was the Dreamcast for Nintendo because nobody remembers the Wii U. Nobody even wants to talk about the Wii U. They were like, we don't talk about that. It never happened.
The Wii.
And so the Wii was the Dreamcast for Nintendo. If they did the Wii now, it would have been better because then they could have implemented virtual reality with it. And it would have made it more sense.
It seems like they really I don't think they pushed a product before it was ready. It just seems like you were saying, it was ahead of its time and it was implemented before it could have been used to the full extent of its abilities.
Because I would love to see what it could. And Mark,
because we don't have wands.
Yeah, they don't have the wands and shit that everyone was making jokes with when they first came out. Everybody was jerking them.
Right. Because people really broke their shit. But we don't have stuff like that for the Switch that I'm aware of. Do
I mean, you just take the nunchucks off, but they're not super huge. You're not flinging them.
Right. And then
but Mark Zuckerberg, you have my permission to use this idea. Just credit me and pay me royalties. I would think an amazing team up would be the Meta and Nintendo have a little crossover and work together and come up with a console. The Wii was a good starting point. Like if they just backtrack, like they take what worked for the Switch, they take what works for the Wii. They already know Meta works perfectly and they fuse that concept together. That would be amazing because a lot of people go, well, that's just virtual reality all over. Yes and no. Can you imagine Nintendo games in VR? Mario Kart? Smash Bros. In like a supersized screen? GoldenEye? Super Mario World games? Dude, I would pay for that.
Well, and the Wii U was kind of doing it pretty much first with the little characters, and you could be in an online setting with your characters talking to your friends. It just wasn't something at the time that like people,
because we were still like we were still active. We were still like going out, seeing our friends. Split screen was still a thing. So people just came over to your house.
Yeah.
Like it would work now because we're less physically social than back then. Nintendo was just ahead of its time. So, but now, that's come and it's gone. It's run its course. They're not going to look back because Nintendo, at least in their designs, rarely looks back. They're always like, all right, we did it. Now that's it. Yay, moving on. So But I think that would have been a really cool concept, because kind of like how VR is right now, like and tech is really pushing VR, because I think this isn't the first time VR's hit the scene. This is just the strongest VR's hit the scene. VR has been around since literally the 80s. Nintendo dabbled in VR with the Virtual Boy. A lot of people forget that Nintendo has already dabbled in VR. That's why I say they could do this if they wanted to, but because they failed back then, they were like, all right, it's not going to work. We're not looking back. Just like now, people are still slowly accepting VR. And the real push for it is just to make sure it stays alive, so that we don't go like 10 years later, like, man, we really should have stuck with VR, because we're heading that direction anyway. So
I think people are scared of VR because there's a lot of fear with like cybersecurity, security in your own sense of self. Like, am I going to be harassed or bullied? Yeah. There's a lot of things that are worthy of feeling a little fearful, and they're not. I'm not saying they're not doing anything to make people feel more comfortable with it. They definitely have like come out a lot of statements and made some changes and attacked like cyberbullying and sexual harassment in the VR setting, but they're definitely not doing anything like revolutionary that would really change someone's, like, as a large group, like change our minds about it as a whole.
Yeah.
It's a new thing. It's scary for people who aren't already like gamers, like through and through, or tech enthusiasts. Everyone else is going to be like, I don't know, like that's terrifying. And the only thing I can see is like to push it even faster is if we had another pandemic and everyone was back home again. And then like, well, I guess we'll check it out. Otherwise, it's going to be a hard thing. It's going to be a slow process to push people through and get them to want to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a conversation piece we could probably have a whole episode on. But I do want to, in the same vein of gaming, I do want to get your thoughts on something that we actually started talking about last week. Square Enix selling some of their biggest IPs. Before anyone panics, no, we're not talking Final Fantasy, but we are talking some close ones. Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, Deus Ex, and the studios attached to them. That means like, I think Square Enix Montreal, Eidos, Crystal Dynamics. These are some big names being sold for the funds for, wait for this, investment into blockchaining. You are selling your IPs so you can do blockchains. Now, I get that NFTs and all that are the thing right now, and everyone is jumping on the bandwagon, but you had a tried and true tested formula known to work from sales and fan reception. Tomb Raider reboots sold. People loved it. Deus Ex reboots sold. People loved it. Legacy of Kain, even though it's not been rebooted, it's a classic. People still love it. These are titles that are powerhouses. But Square Enix swore that, in their typical fashion, underperformed. What standards does Square have that every time they put something out that's not Final Fantasy, it's underperformed? I'm like, look, if you just didn't want to make another Tomb Raider, just say you didn't want to make another Tomb Raider. Maybe you guys got tired of everyone asking, when's the next Tomb Raider coming out? That's understandable. Be upfront about it. But at the same time, I don't like what they're selling it for. It's like, it's almost like they're selling it so they can gamble. Like what I want to know what their blockchain plan is. And they want to do stuff with the cloud and everything. I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do with the cloud? You just sold games you could have put on the cloud and their backlogs. Because all those studios, their catalogs and Square Enix Montreal, and you're going to be renaming all these studios. That's all the games attached to them. What are you going to put on the cloud?
What's strange to me, and I think is strange to a lot of people, is that it feels like something is missing from the information that has been put out, because there's no real reason that Microsoft or Sony would not have
scoop this up
these, for that cheap of a price, unless maybe there was a large amount of debt or something, some loose ends that would have to be tied up in addition to purchasing this out, which even then you're looking at Sony and Microsoft, they could probably, whatever the price is. So then you have to think, okay, if that is the case and whatever it is that they could afford to buy it out and deal with the debt or whatever the situation might be, maybe it's because the IPs are nostalgic and they're good, but maybe they don't see them as profitable or potential IPs worthy of income, of revenue, of a future.
Now, I would agree if it wasn't for the fact that it's the Embracer Group that bought them up. So in the same vein, Sony and Microsoft might not have been given a chance to buy them because they probably never even knew they were up for sale. Like there was not even conversation. Like even for you and me, this information was just put out. The deal was done. This means it was done behind closed doors. And for anyone who doesn't know, the Embracer Group is pretty much one of the largest companies in acquiring video game publishers because they already own Gearbox and THQ and quite a few others. We're all looking at Microsoft and Sony, but honestly, the Embracer Group is what created this whole mass of Microsoft and Sony buying up developers because the Embracer Group's been doing this quietly, apparently, for years. They've got a lot of, as Kotaku puts it, they are a planet swallowing mass of video game publishers that already include what I mentioned, Gearbox and THQ. So what does that tell you? These guys have been doing this for years. They had their eyes on it. Square might have been in some trouble. They, like you said, there's probably some debts they need to pay. Embracer Group probably approached them and said, well, look, we'll take this off your hands for $300 million. Easy day. Square said, okay, we don't want to make games for that anyway. Cause they said they want to focus on some other stuff. And I guess Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, because they did better than they thought or hoped, put on extra pressure.
The games did do well ultimately in their lifespan. And I didn't say that to shit on the franchises. I love Tomb Raider. I want more Tomb Raider. It is one of my favorite game series. It's the first PlayStation game I ever owned, and I fell in love with it ever since then. I'm just trying to think of like perspectives from other people. Yeah, I've seen people say things along the lines of, why would they invest in Tomb Raider when Uncharted? Why would they want a female version of Uncharted? Is one of the, like, I've heard that said quite a bit. That's a little ridiculous though, because one, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Tomb Raider was there first. They are the most iconic.
Uncharted was born from Tomb Raider.
Right. And that's just kind of a shitty comment to make. Like, why would they want a female version? Like, okay, chill out, bro. Take that shit home. Like, not necessary. But like, you look at the numbers, like, yes, Uncharted has, out of its entire franchise, not counting the movie, gaming only, has made well over $300 million. Tomb Raider, out of its entire gaming series, not including the movies, has made just a little bit less, almost 300 million. And that's kind of weird, right? Because Tomb Raider came out first. It had a little bit of a head start. I think some of that though has to do with the amount of people that game today versus the amount of people that gamed back then. And I do think Tomb Raider, I think a large portion of those people who play Tomb Raider and love it are going to be our age group. I think the Uncharted age group would lean more towards somebody who might be 10 years younger than us, because that's about when it came out. So that's where I see the differences there. But they, despite a few $1 million, it's still close to a $300 million. Like it's still a lot of money. It's definitely not underselling. So I don't see that being a bad purchase altogether. No one's really said anything on either side that to me has jumped out as like a real reason why someone wouldn't buy it. So it kind of comes down to maybe you being right. Maybe that information just wasn't out yet. So, okay, the information wasn't out yet. and Sony and Microsoft missed their chance. Why only 500 million? It just, is it weird? Like, is that more money than I think it is for a gaming studio?
I mean, if they're including the employees, I will say these are actually small studios, because the total amount of employees that they've, I don't want to say sold like their property, but the total amount of employees that they're getting is only 1,100. That's
total worldwide.
From the worldwide.
Oh, wow.
So that means these are small studios. That means the games that we were getting from them were from small studios, which is why we were probably getting them slowly over the years. When you were talking about Tomb Raider earlier, the reason I think Uncharted came and was able to steal the crown from Tomb Raider is because Tomb Raider had been poorly handled after Tomb Raider 3. A lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
It was poorly handled.
Angel of Darkness was, you wanted to love it, but just couldn't. Tomb Raider 4 was just terrible. They tried to continue. It was so bad. It wasn't good until they rebooted the entire series and changed Lara Croft as a whole, and they just came out with Tomb Raider.
And I think, but that at that point,
and that was good.
Uncharted had already come out. The first Uncharted had already come out before they rebooted. So Uncharted came in and it was that breath of fresh air. Because even with, like you said, it was mostly our peers, but we were still, I know Uncharted 1 came out when I was still in high school. So I was aware of Uncharted. I was like a junior in high school, I think, because it came out on the PS3. I played it and I was like, okay, this is a breath of fresh air. This is what Tomb Raider used to be. So then Uncharted came in as the new Tomb Raider. And then let's be honest, you got your leading Caucasian guy, which, you know, automatically everyone was like, woo. And he's in the Tomb Raider theme. So then it's like double woo. And then it just goes from there. And this is no discredit to the writers. I think the story is amazing. I loved the story. I loved the adventure, the action sequences. Michael Bay would be proud. So it is a good game, but it knew what to cater to. It knew what was lacking, where Tomb Raider fell off, and it picked that up, and it gave the gamers of that time what they wanted, and it ran through. And they were smart too, because they knew when they ran their course. Uncharted knew, Naughty Dog knew, all right, it's time to fall back. We're hitting that part where if we do any more, it's going to suck. So when they hit Uncharted 4, they said, we're done. The story is over. This is where it ends. And they had their little game spinoffs, and they knew from the feedback of that, like, yep, if we did anything else, people are going to hate it. They changed the leads. People were like, nah, bro, this ain't it. And they were like, okay, cool. Uncharted 4. That's it. It's a wrap. This is the end of the line. Tomb Raider could have kept going, but like we were saying, they came out with Angel of Darkness and 4 and they just lost their way, and that hurt them.
You know, Tomb Raider 1 and 2, what made them so good, in my opinion, wasn't just the storyline, but there was more than just history there. There was the unknown, there was the puzzles, there was never knowing what was around the next corner. Like what mystery were you about to find? And there was a little bit of a magical sense to it, a mythology sense to it. You would fight monsters. You would come across the ending of Tomb Raider 1 was the villain was a sort of demonic entity, which was very cool. And they tied it into the next couple of Tomb Raiders. And then after that, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, they just kind of lost their way.
I hope to see these the continuation of this Tomb Raider that they've given us now, and add some of that that mystery, that mythology and interesting stuff that they had in their first couple of games to what's going further. Because this was the beginning of Lara Croft's career. I'd be very interested to see them make these same type of games, but sort of in the world that we grew up in when she was already established.
Yeah. And that's the question everyone's asking. They're saying, you know, what's going to happen to the games already in production? What's going to happen to the games that, you know, they were aware of? So there hasn't been a clear answer on that. Everyone's been beating around the bush on what's going to happen to these titles. So I would say don't get your hopes up. Don't be surprised if the Tomb Raider that was in the works gets sent back to the drawing board. The finalization isn't going to be until later this year because there's all those things of acquisitions and the paperwork and all that. But for right now, I would say don't expect anything from those studios for a little while. I will be very surprised if they let it just keep going through the pipeline, because even, with ownership changes and copyright changes, there's probably certain things that they can't put in those games because they belong to Square. That could send them all the way back to the drawing board. So I don't know. Square Enix might be just purely Final Fantasy going forward. Who knows? It's that's a big surprise. It's a really, really big surprise.
That's all about. That's all they have left.
Yeah, they have Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers. Which
they're great games. Don't get me wrong. I won't like say that they're not great games. They're great games. I've never been super into superhero games myself. That's why I say that. It has nothing to do with the hard work or how well done they are. They're absolutely well done.
I think for
outside comic books, I'm just like,
I think probably for us, because I think Square Enix is Japanese owned, since they were Square Soft way back in the 90s originally. So for the Western audiences, it might seem like they don't have a lot, but probably for like in Japan, as we always know, there's like a whole catalog that we never see. Mm-hmm. So Square probably has a whole crap ton of Japanese only IPs that are flagships for them next to Final Fantasy that we'll never see.
They're over there hogging Sword Art Online for real, and we'll never know. By the
time we've got the Sword Art Online games, Japan's like, bro, you're just not getting that? Pfft, we already played that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'm like, dude, when I saw like, there was like 4 Sword Art Online games that came out like one each year, I was like, when did this happen? Because we got like Howled Song and then Lost Song and then the Gun Gale, and I'm like, I can't even.
Is a Sword Art Online game really a game if you play it and you don't die in real life?
Don't put that out there.
I'm just saying.
We don't. No. Yes, it is a Sword Art Online game. Okay, because the whole premise originally was not to die. All right, that got added in unbeknownst to the players. So anyone who's working on a headset, please, we don't need a real nerve gear situation. We don't need that. Okay. I have the hiccups all of a sudden. What the heck happened to me? What's happening to me? All right. So
we're not, it might sound some people like we're drinking. Welcome in today's news. As I down some tequila.
I don't know where it came from. Like I started like I have to contain my laughs, because if I laugh too hard, I feel the hiccup come. It is just real bad. On
today's episode, we talk gaming, nostalgia, reminisce, and drink whiskey.
Hey guys, how would that be like an awesome episode? It's like gaming and whiskey gaming. I don't know. Maybe I'll put that up to the listeners. What do you guys think? You think we could deliver great news while
it would be
whiskey?
There would be a 20-minute segment in there if I'm drunk enough. You know how people get drunk and talk politics and everyone's like, oh God, that'd be me. But instead of politics, he'd be like, Nightmare Creatures was underrated and it deserves a remake.
Can you just admit Nightmare Creatures is like your second favorite game?
I love that game on the PlayStation, and how it hasn't gotten an open world reboot is beyond me. But there is fucking potential in this damn game that they are sleeping on, dude.
Developer, anyone, please, for the love of gaming, give this man his Nightmare Creature reboot so he can stop about the Nightmare Creatures.
I want Elden Ring, but Nightmare Creatures.
Oh my god,
that's what I want. I want a horror game like
Elden
Ring. But Nightmare Creatures, and I want it to be horrifying.
Oh my goodness. But even though I would play that because something's wrong with me, I would still play that, knowing it is probably the most mentally unnerving experience I would ever have. I would still subject myself to it because I'm a gamer and this is what gamers do. Now, last topic for the episode and something that could start a whole rabbit hole. We're going to try not to go in a whole rabbit hole, but boy, oh boy, NVIDIA. And here I thought they were saints. I'm kidding. I never thought they were saints, but man, I didn't think they were this shisty. So in a nutshell, NVIDIA not only was hiding, but lying to its shareholders about where a good portion of their revenue was coming from and how many of their GPUs was going to crypto miners.
And for anyone that doesn't understand why the shareholders might be upset, it's because when NVIDIA lied about the information, that means the shareholders made the risky choice of investing more into their company on the lie that increase in revenue and that increase in investment was going to continue to rise. So that was the future projection.
Yep.
Over the next couple of years or however they looked at it. And that was a lie. Those numbers were a lie.
So reading directly here from The Verge, NVIDIA will pay $5.5 million to settle charges that it unlawfully obscured how many of its graphics cards were sold to cryptocurrency miners. So a quick side note in there. We were in a GPU crisis, still technically are in a GPU crisis that started I think 2020. And right now graphics cards are hard to get a hold of unless you're going for top tier and have that money to get it. Graphics cards are, you're lucky unless it comes in a pre-built PC. So this is one issue right there. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission announced the charges and a settlement with the company today. Its order claims NVIDIA misled investors by reporting a huge boost in revenue related to gaming, hiding how much its success relied on the far more volatile crypto market. So basically, they were letting the crypto miners suck up their GPUs. They saw money in letting crypto miners get their GPUs. They did not try to prevent it. They tried to just alleviate it with their special graphics cards. And I think the only reason they came up with that was because they didn't want people to realize they were letting crypto miners scoop up those GPUs. So they had to come up with a solution that would make everyone happy. Meanwhile, they really were giving them to the crypto miners. They wanted them to scoop it up because it was so much fast money. But then I think this started back way in 2018. There was a crypto crash. And that's when the shareholders were like, something's not right because the gaming market hasn't changed. So how come we lost so much money if all the revenue is from gaming? And meanwhile, we gamers are still no, we're good. we're good. What are you talking about? Nothing's changed.
Don't look at us.
And then the videos just sitting there bad weather? No. Something's a little sus here.
Got caught with their pants down. Look at that.
And here's the kicker.
Rascallions,
they refuse to admit any wrongdoing. They're just paying the money.
It says it. NVIDIA isn't admitting to any wrongdoing as part of the settlement, but it agrees to stop any unlawful failures to disclose information. Yeah. AKA, we did nothing wrong and we'll continue to do nothing wrong.
It's basically the situation where it's you'll commit a crime.
What the fuck?
You're a kid, right? And you're doing this thing repeatedly because you never get caught. You go to the corner store, you steal candy over and over. You never get caught. But the one time you finally get caught, you're all of a sudden pouty, but you don't see what you did wrong. And you were just I really wanted that candy. I didn't have any money. And the shopkeeper's don't let me catch you doing that again. And you're okay. And you give the candy bar back. And then you're all right, whatever. But you never really admitted to your wrongdoing. That's NVIDIA. They're just here's $5.5 million. My bad. Anyway, back to business. And here's the thing. This kind of ties into something we were talking about, how the gaming market gets used. They were using the gaming as a cover for their shiesty cryptocurrency gamble.
Everyone's just like, it's the gamers.
It's the gamers. They're like, yeah,
we're just over here like, I'm just playing those illegally downloaded Sony games that you guys stopped letting me have.
Yeah, man, I'm over here just playing my
Leave me alone.
Fishing World 13, bro. Like, I haven't bought a new game in like 3 weeks.
Leave me alone with my emulators.
Oh my goodness. But when it was so funny because I'm like, how much, I wish I could have seen like how much money did they make that it didn't raise a red flag sooner? Like, oh, this is all from gaming.
You think the price increases but they did a good job. Okay. They hid. This is what NVIDIA did. They used this scenario in another way to hide the fact that, for the gamers, this is what they showed us. Hey, gamers, since we're low on GPUs right now, all we have are these really expensive ones. And what you don't know is, yeah, they're going to be a little more expensive, but we're going to hike the price up a little higher because we know that you're going to buy them anyways. So they got away with unnecessary, like, dude, it should have been illegal how high they raised the prices on all this shit, while also hiding the fact that they were
hustling
and lying about numbers. Like they shammed the gamers. We weren't even doing anything wrong. It's like, well, I'm just here because he wrote me into it. Well, he just wrote me into it. Well, don't look at me. He wrote me into it. Like, God damn it, NVIDIA. We just wanted to play a game and you guys had to do this shit and you screwed everyone over. And you lost people millions of dollars. Yeah. And their only punishment is $5.5 million. Which
obviously is nothing to them. Because if their GPUs are selling every day, being sold out, they made that money back the same day they spent it. No doubt about it. And it's funny that you mentioned like the ridiculous prices for the GPUs, because that was the perfect cover. Because at a glance, shareholders are like, well, yeah, this graphics card is daggone nearly $1,000. I guess that would make make revenue go up. Because it's like, yeah, we're charging $1,000 per GPU. That's where all the money's coming from. And you just look at it at a glance, like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that looks like that checks out.
They paid only $5.5 million, and they still didn't have to disclose how much of that money was from crypto mining. Like, dude, they got a deal.
Oh, absolutely.
For no reason. They like, what the hell? They literally just got a deal. They got caught and they're like, stop that.
I think it's also because there's probably some legal jargon that they can't go back too far when it comes to investments, because how the stock market works and constant price changes and shifts and stuff. There's probably something like they can't be held accountable for a certain amount of years back or whatever, for however long, this was running. And since they are a lead in GPUs,
they're like, paper launch. We'll redefine paper launch. We'll lie about numbers too. We'll lie about everything.
So, and NVIDIA,
the ultimate paper launch.
They have the advantage. They're leading with GPUs right now. Everybody's buying them up. Crypto miners and gamers. So it's like, what are you going to do to them? Because they hold all the cards. They're like, all right, you can punish us, and then no one has GPUs, and then no one has a way to play their games, and now you're ruining esports. Who's going to tell the esports people about that? And the shareholders are kind of like, yeah, because if they're invested in NVIDIA, they're more likely invested in an esports some way. They can't fuck themselves by like trying to hold NVIDIA accountable, because they're looking at it like, if we screw NVIDIA over and then they can't pay the money to get GPUs don't get to the athletes don't have the equipment, no esports.
no esports. That's right.
And then we crash the crypto market, and then boom, everything falls apart because I got pissed.
The crypto market. What's the crypto market up to these days? I haven't dabbled in
it depends.
The mining aspect of it in a while.
It really depends.
It's certainly not where it was in 2000.
No, it's not. It's not that high. I watch it, and it like can start off strong, and in the same day it could plummet and go. It's so unstable.
I think Bitcoin just overwhelmingly took over and just push that shit to the side.
If you're not into Bitcoin, it's going to be rough. It's going to be really rough. Like you got a better chance starting an NFT of your own and making money off of that than getting your hands on a Bitcoin. So, but yeah, good job, NVIDIA. Way to add fuel to the already burning fire.
They got caught cheating.
For real. For real.
Got caught cheating.
Like he just walked.
And still didn't admit it. That they did anything wrong.
I'm just picturing it.
They're a fucking narcissist.
The shareholder walks into the bedroom and sees NVIDIA in bed with a crypto miner.
I don't know how she got here. Get out, you fucking burglar.
She tripped, fell, landed in my bed. I don't know what happened.
Gaslighted the investors and then lied to our faces and made us feel like we did. Blamed it on the gamers. We weren't even there.
We were just like, bro, I bought one graphics card like in the last 4 years. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we individually buy 1 to 2 every few years at most. Like usually it's like every several years.
And here's the thing, like guys, if you're getting into this, don't think, well, big streamer, they're not buying shit. They're sponsored. They get that crap for free. Someone else paid for it.
They're not dropping $2,000 on the best graphics card on the planet. Like that's not happening. Like their sponsors are making that.
Sponsors paid for it and they got it for free and they just tell you what it is because then they get you to buy it and they get a cut of what you spent on it from them promoting their free product. Man, our system is so fucked up. When you break it down, our system is so messed up.
We really just explained to you the kind of the fucked up side of capitalism.
Yep. That's how it works. That's exactly how it works. But anyway, that is going to be
now. If you want to see the fucked up side of capitalism, I could just go down the street.
Well, you do live in Texas.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But that is going to be our episode for the week. Let us know your thoughts, guys. What do you think? Did NVIDIA do anything wrong? Are you on NVIDIA's side? What are your thoughts on this? How do you guys feel about the iPod going away after 20 years? And what do you think the future of the formerly owned by Square Enix Studios is going to be? Are you hoping that the games continue, or do you think they've run their course and we are just going to wind up burying some iconic IPs? Let us know your thoughts. You hit us up on our website, osn-media.com. You can also catch this podcast there and on all of your favorite listening platforms. Make sure you share this with your friends. Let everybody know. Once again, thank you guys so much for all your continued support. We really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe out there. We will catch all of you wonderful people on the next episode. Later, everybody.